Centuries ago, Mark Twain, traveling through India, wrote, "It is the only country under the sun that is endlessly interesting to the wise and the foolish, the rich and the poor. The only country that everyone desires to see, and once seen, can no longer look at all other beauties of the world with the same eyes." What do we know about the history of India? Who are the great Mughals? Why such a mystical name? In this video, you will embark on a fascinating journey through centuries of history, the fires of battles, and the splendor of palaces. We will unveil the mystery of the great Mughals, the greatest rulers of India, delving into historical treasures, legends, and enigmas. What is remarkable about the Indo-Muslim alliance of the great Mughal Akbar? Did he really strive to create an amazing state, even by today's standards? What new religion did he create, intertwining cultures and beliefs? What lies behind the walls of the abandoned city of Fatehpur, Sikri, created by Emperor Akbar? This is a story of beauty and grandeur, passion and intrigue, ambition and pride. How did this paradise arise despite centuries of trials? Let's uncover the secrets of this mysterious past to revive it in our hearts and minds. But before we learn about the great Mughals, let's travel to the deep past, to the days when civilization was just emerging. More than 2 millennia before ancient Hellas. Here, in the Indus Valley, the first civilizations began. Yes, at that time, where there could now be fields and cities, there was a shallow sea. The Aryans, a mysterious tribe, moved here from afar and brought with them the Vedas, castes, teachings about karma and Sanskrit. The Aryan era, the era of the Vedas, the time when the greatest works of Indian culture were born, such as the epics Mahabharata and Ramayana. 500 years between the Aryan invasion and the appearance of Buddha, a time of change. Indian civilization moved eastward, creating and flourishing in 4 great kingdoms. And here on the horizon appears Alexander the Great, the great conqueror who crossed all boundaries. His invasion of India in 326 BC changed the course of history. But this was just the beginning of a turbulent century of changes and great rulers. In the early 16th century, a new powerful empire emerges on the ruins of the Delhi Sultanate. The founder of this empire is Babur Zahir ad-Din Muhammad. Babur had noble origins, as he was a descendant of Genghis Khan and Timur. In 1526, with a small army of only 20,000 men, Babur began his conquest of India. With his artillery and inventive strategies, he won victories at Panipat and over the Rajputs, ultimately occupying the Delhi throne. Thus, the Mughal Empire appeared, and its inhabitants were called Mughals. The empire stretched from Kabul to Bengal, creating a powerful state that European travelers of the 17th century called the Great Mughals, a long-lived name that firmly rooted in history. And even now in Afghanistan, there is an ethnic group, descendants of the conqueror's army, calling themselves Mughals and speaking an ancient dialect of the Mongolian language. Babur, a name turned into legend. Zahir ad-Din Muhammad, known as the Tiger, did not accidentally acquire such a nickname. A great military leader and wise strategist, he led his armies boldly and steadfastly. But Babur was not only a military genius, his life was full of adventures and achievements. Babur was not just a conqueror, but also a remarkable poet. His memoirs not only tell of great battles, but also of his sharp mind, sense of humor, and love for the beauty of the world. Besides his military exploits, Babur was a lover of flowers and wine. He loved to enjoy life. But in the most difficult moments, when he had to choose between pleasure and duty, he showed incredible strength of character. His decision to give up wine at a critical moment in his life and break his wine cups is a symbol of his unwavering will and determination. When Sultan Babur's troops invaded India in 1526, his son, the warrior Humayun, was with him. In the decisive battle at Panipat in the same year, the Indian troops were defeated. Babur became the ruler of Hindustan. In this battle, Raja Abi Karamid was killed, and his family was captured while trying to flee from Agra. Trying to appease the victor, the Raja's wife handed over all the treasures to Humayun, including the Koh-i-Noor. Before his death, Babur divided his possessions among his sons, leaving the main territory in India to Humayun and ordering the others, who received Punjab, Kabul, and Kandahar, to obey him. The death came, but it did not extinguish his legacy. Babur left his mark in history, giving his son Humayun not only an empire, but also the mysterious Koh-i-Noor diamond. This precious stone, as a symbol of power, passed from hand to hand, bringing not only wealth, but also severe trials to its owners. Humayun ascended the throne at the young age of 22. His father left him a vast state stretching from the Amu Darya and Sir Darya to Hindustan, but it was unstable, like the smoke of a hookah. Humayun was an educated and cultured man, but not a military strategist like his father. His inclination towards opium and hashish weakened his energy and clouded his judgment. Humayun was prone to utopian dreams and fantasies. His policy was colored by hookah smoke, and problems were solved as if under a light high. He built fairy tale cities and wavered between Agra and Delhi in choosing his throne city. Eventually, he founded Delhi and began the construction of a remarkable city intended for people of happiness, where qazis, that is, theologians and teachers, were supposed to live. Despite his shortcomings, Humayun had bright sides to his rule. He managed to unite Hindus and Muslims in his empire, which had a huge impact on future rulers of the Mughal dynasty. His first campaign in Kalinjar, an ancient Indian state that had lasted for over 8 centuries under the rule of Hindu kings, became a starting point. Humayun concluded a treaty with the Hindu ruler, who became a dignitary of the Mughal Empire. This became an unprecedented precedent, paving the way for the policy of Mughal emperors, calling for interfaith rapprochement. But state problems were insurmountable. The army was heterogeneous, and the country's governance was chaotic. Researchers of the great Mughals' politics note that although Humayun possessed energy in individual cases, he could not maintain his victories in the long term. His laziness and love for entertainment hindered the consolidation of his successes. Such difficulties, as well as the inability to hold the vast empire, led to unrest throughout the empire. East India, including Bengal, was an independent state, and local Afghan rulers did not intend to yield to the Mughals. The Afghan ruler of Bihar, Sher Shah of the Sur dynasty, managed to unite the Afghan lands and defeated Humayun. In 1539, he routed Humayun's army, and in 1540, he repeated his victories. Sher Shah expelled Humayun from India. Humayun was forced to flee. Seeking to avoid his brother and enemies, Humayun fled to Sindh and subsequently to Iran, leaving his son Akbar under the care of his brother Kamran. These wanderings and instability in the country were turning points in his life and in the history of India. After Sher Shah, various rulers from the dynasty of the Great Mughals alternated in power in India. The situation was amazing, almost incredible. It seemed like a deviation from Babur's plan. But in his own way, Sher Shah continued the work of the first Mughals. Babur came to India with a new vision of the ruler's role. He did not seek to be a sultan ruling over independent princes. In his ambitions was the position of Padishah with divine rights granted to him by his descent from Timur. It was Sher Shah who, not being a descendant of Babur and not even aspiring to create the title of Padishah, created the system of governance necessary for the successful implementation of Babur's ideals, which he himself could not establish. Sher Shah ruled for 5 years until 1545. His primary task was the subjugation of feudal lords, especially the Afghan rulers of Bihar and Bengal, on whom he relied when seizing power. He strictly demanded from jagirdars, owners of yagars, to provide a certain number of hired horsemen, which constituted the main part of the state army. Sher Shah sought to introduce strict norms for collecting the share of the harvest that belonged to the state and to limit the arbitrariness of tax collectors. He paid his hired warriors exclusively in money, trying to convert the material tax into a monetary one. Thus, it was Sher Shah who conceived the reforms that Akbar was later able to implement. Sher Shah also claimed to create the imperial internationalism of the great Mughals. He was the first to establish an Indian empire based on the will of the people and the spiritual and heartfelt unity of Hindus and Muslims. His rule laid the foundations for a new policy that developed under Akbar. He was tolerant of Hinduism and wisely knew how to use the talents of Hindu to strengthen his empire. Despite the brevity of his rule, Sher Shah became a key figure in the early period of the great Mughals' history, despite not belonging to this dynasty himself. His reforms, military successes, administrative achievements, and centralization of the country were outstanding accomplishments. However, they were all just harbingers of future successes under Akbar. Sher Shah died at the age of 73 during the siege of one of them receiving a fatal wound from a ricocheting cannonball from his own cannon. Sher Shah's death marked the beginning of a period of stagnation. The rule of his son, Islam Shah, was weak, and Sikandar Shah acted in the same spirit. Taking advantage of this, Humayun, who had returned from Iranian exile, defeated Sikandar Shah's army. And already in 1555, Humayun returned to Delhi. After 15 years of exile, Humayun was 47 years old, and he was no longer the former ardent youth who believed in utopias. He did not restore his former system of division into ranks and departments, but tried to strengthen the disintegrating state. However, he was not destined to lead a great and powerful empire. In 1556, he accidentally fell from a marble staircase and died. There were rumors that he was pushed, but they were probably just rumors. Under Humayun, there was no strong opposition. He did not cause discontent, and his heir was not his antagonist seeking power. Turkmen Bayram Khan, the mentor of the young heir Akbar, hurried to put him on the throne, remaining as his regent. However, this transfer of power did not take place in Delhi, but in the Kalanaur Garden in Punjab. Delhi was not yet in their hands, and they still had to conquer it. The situation was difficult. Power in Delhi belonged not even to Muslims, but to a Hindu merchant named Hemu. The locals, it would seem, should have supported their compatriot. However, in conditions of hunger, poverty, and devastation, Hemu did not inspire the trust of the people, worrying only about his war elephants. In November 1556, the Second Battle of Panipat took place. Hemu had a significant numerical superiority, plus 5,000 war elephants, but the hand of fate had not yet exhausted its miracles. At the decisive moment, a random arrow wounded Hemu. Not seeing their commander, the soldiers fled, because their salary depended on Hemu. The result of this battle was the victory of Bayram Khan and Akbar. With Hemu's death, the resistance that representatives of the Sir dynasty offered to the rise of the Mughal dynasty ceased to pose a threat to Akbar and Bayram Khan. Akbar was born in 1542, during a turbulent period of change in Hindustan. His childhood was full of adventures, and although he remained illiterate, he showed an interest in art and adventure. Akbar sought to create a multinational state with a stable government. He introduced a series of reforms, including a policy of universal peace, which was designed to ensure religious harmony in the empire. He also developed an innovative management system in which merit was more important than origin. He found support from the Rajputs, making them an important part of his army. His conquests expanded the empire from the Mesopotamia, Ganges, and Yamuna to Bengal and Afghanistan. Akbar was able to create a unified state, uniting diverse cultures and religions. His reign is considered a great period for India. Akbar sought to centralize power, moving jagirs and requiring influential jagirdars to reside at court. His policy neutralized the religious factor, giving Hindus positions and allowing them to maintain their faith. In 1562, at the age of 20, Akbar married a non-Muslim woman. This marriage and subsequent ones with Indian girls, where each was allowed to keep their faith, were supported by the Indian nobility. This provided Akbar with a strategic advantage, strengthening his political position. He also tried to create a new religion, Din-e-Allahi, merging features of Islam, Hinduism, and other beliefs. Despite the attempt to create a new religion, he never broke with Islam and adhered to its dogmas. The new religion did not take root in society, but it created a tolerant atmosphere and contributed to the cultural rapprochement of different peoples. As a diplomat, judge, legislator, and administrator, he was distinguished by wisdom. He was invariably kind and attentive to common people, willingly listening to their opinions, thoughts, and complaints, which made him extremely popular among representatives of the lower classes, including Hindus, who until his rule were treated as second-class people. Akbar often forgave rebellious vassals, and in most cases, this worked to his advantage, turning them into loyal servants. For example, despite the fact that his blood brother, Mirza Hakim, and later his own son, rebelled against him, he mercifully forgave them and even returned their lands. He lived in Agra, a city which, despite its cultural riches, caused him aversion due to tragic events associated with the loss of his sons. Akbar himself could not read, but highly valued art and culture, especially painting. To develop tolerance and understanding between beliefs, he ordered the translation of Indian epics into Persian and had them illustrated. This caused disapproval from his Muslim entourage, as in Islam, depictions of humans are perceived negatively. On the other hand, Akbar was a friendly, sensual, and charming person with a sense of humor. But his anger could be unrestrained, especially towards high officials, who abused their power. At one point, a famous Sufi mystic predicted the birth of a son to the emperor. This prophecy came true, and the boy was named after the prophet, Salim. This event prompted Akbar to found a new city, Fatehpur, Sikri, or the City of Victory, in which he wanted to see space for his army, ceremonies, and joyful crowds. The city, recreated with incredible speed, was so organic and majestic that its perimeter surpassed even London. Fatehpur Sikri became a manifestation of architectural greatness, where beautiful palaces and buildings were carefully planned. It conquered with its magnificence and amazing architectural solutions. Among them stands out the Diwan-e-Khas, where the emperor received courtiers, listening to their opinions and discussing important issues. Thanks to such efforts by Akbar, his empire continued its majestic development. Akbar undoubtedly left an incredible legacy. Coming to power at a young age, he transformed a fragmented and diverse kingdom into a powerful and rich state, occupying an important place in world history. His reforms covered administrative, tax, military, and religious spheres, as well as the system of weights and measures. Surprisingly, despite being unable to read, he had a huge personal library with 24,000 volumes of manuscripts, real treasures of knowledge for that time. Akbar led a strict lifestyle. Daily, he held 3 receptions where important issues were discussed, including religious and state affairs. His dedication to service was unparalleled. He believed that a true monarch should work diligently, even despite his status. His determined efforts and foresight brought glory and respect to the great Mughal Empire. We have reviewed the lives of 3 great Mughals: Babur Shah, the tiger from Central Asia who conquered India and began the Mughal rule, his son Humayun, a lover of pleasures who subsequently lost power. Sher Shah was not among the great Mughals, but he managed to bring Babur's plan to life. Humayun miraculously regains power, but he never got to rule. His son Akbar was able to expand the empire and build a beautiful city. From our history, we can notice in the offspring of Babur that a good father had a bad son, and a bad father gave birth to a great Padishah. This is the end of the first part of our story. In the next part, we will see real family dramas and games of thrones. To not miss useful content, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications.